Get back to economy. Sir, this seat isn't for your kind. That's what flight attendant Elena Reyes said. Loud, cold, and without a flicker of hesitation. At 10:01 a.m. aboard Eravani flight AV204 at LAX. Her voice didn't shake. It sliced, and the man she was staring down, black, bearded, dressed in a plain white t-shirt and jeans, didn't say a word, not yet. In 15 minutes, she'd be out of a job, along with her co-attendant, the captain, and one other crew member, but, at that moment, she was certain he didn't belong in seat 1A. Before we go deeper into this story, I want to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and if you're here for stories that reveal truth and justice in real time, hit subscribe and share this video. This one will stay with you. His name was David Thorne, 45, billionaire, founder, chairman, and CEO of Eravani Airlines. But today, no boardroom, no fanfare, just a man walking onto his own plane, hidden behind a full beard and humility. He wasn't here to be seen, he was here to see, because social media had been buzzing. Reddit threads, anonymous tips, passenger complaints, stories of discrimination, of wealthy-looking travelers bribing crew for first-class seats, of black passengers downgraded or humiliated if they didn't look the part. David was done watching. From behind a desk, he came to see the rot for himself. And Maya Reed, his trusted assistant, was right behind him. Sharp black blazer, pencil skirt, phone recording silently from the side pocket. They boarded early. But even earlier was Victoria Sterling, age 50, old money, Chanel suit, diamond tennis bracelet, and an open envelope of crisp $100 bills she casually folded into her passport like a tip menu. She'd seen David. She'd seen his clothes. And she saw opportunity. That's my seat, she lied, pointing at 1A. The airline upgraded me. He can sit wherever people like that usually go. Elena didn't ask questions. She didn't verify a manifest. She didn't scan a ticket. She just looked David up and down, smirked at Victoria's envelope, and said it again. Sir, get back to economy. This seat's been reserved for someone who fits our image. David calmly raised his boarding pass. Platinum, 1A. This is my seat. Liam Cole, the second attendant, barely glanced at it. Payment glitch flagged your name, he said, tapping the tablet. Card declined. System override. It wasn't true. A minor payment system crash at 9:55 a.m. had frozen multiple premium bookings in limbo. David's ticket was perfectly valid, but none of that mattered to them. What mattered was perception. Victoria waved her cash in Elena's direction. Let's not make this complicated. I'm a legacy member. I have lunch with Air Vandy's East Coast partners. Elena's reply was immediate. Understood, Miss Sterling. She turned back to David. Step aside now, or I will have you removed. In seat 3B, Marcus Vance watched, jaw tight. The tension was thick, cut only by the quiet chime of a phone unlocking. Chloe Park, an independent journalist seated in C, had already hit record. David didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He simply looked at Elena and said, You're going to regret this moment. Maya stepped closer. We're logging everything, audio and visual. Of course you are, Victoria snorted. Probably looking for a lawsuit payout. Elena leaned in. You're holding up priority boarding. Move it. Or what? David said, voice low, controlled. Liam chimed in, annoyed. You don't look like first class. You don't act like first class, Victoria added. And you certainly don't dress like first class. David's voice didn't rise. It deepened. Is first class sold by fabric or character, Miss Sterling? She laughed. It's sold to people who belong. Clearly, you don't. Chloe's camera panned to Victoria's envelope. Can you repeat that? She asked. The audience at home would love to hear it. Again, Elena took a step back, but doubled down. If you don't comply, I'll contact the captain. As if on cue, Ethan Shaw's voice crackled through the intercom. If the passenger in 1A does not appear on the current manifest, crew is authorized to receipt as needed to ensure premium service. Maya leaned into David. We've got everything. She took a bribe. The system flagged your name only because of the glitch. David nodded. Let them speak. Let them dig. Victoria tilted her head. This whole thing is embarrassing for you. I mean, David responded, still steady. Embarrassment is when the truth is revealed and you realize the lie you've been living. Marcus spoke up. I saw him board. He was first. That's his seat. Stay out of it. Liam snapped. This is none of your business. It's all of our business, Chloe said. This is exactly why people film now. Elena grabbed the boarding pass from David's hand and held it up like a challenge. This isn't enough. You're not on the list. She is. No, I'm not, Victoria muttered. Forgetting her script, Elena shot her a look. Just sit down, Miss Sterling. David turned to Maya, still recording. Every second, she replied. Elena smirked, crumpling the boarding pass in her hand. You'll thank us when you're back where you belong. David didn't move. He just said one thing, quiet, controlled. I built this airline to make sure people like you couldn't do this. But I see now, we missed a spot. Victoria waved her envelope again. Let's get moving already. Chloe stood up. Phone raised. It's all on record. The money, the lies, the treatment. Marcus added, you're going to be famous for the wrong reason. And still, David stood calm, silent. Then, finally, he whispered to Elena, 15 minutes from now. Your badge won't work. Elena's face twitched. Excuse me. David looked around the cabin. Don't excuse anything. Just watch. And with that, the reckoning began. Elena didn't move. She stared at David Thorne like she hadn't just been warned by the very man who owned the airline she worked for, her lips tightening with disbelief. But she pushed forward anyway, raising her voice so the other passengers could hear it clearly. Sir, Miss Sterling has already made a generous contribution to Aravani. She's cleared for 1A. You need to move. Now. Liam, already rattled by Chloe's phone camera and the thick tension pressing down on every row, jabbed at the manifest tablet again. The seat shows pending. He's not officially cleared. Victoria, now seated with one leg draped confidently over the other, fanned herself with a boarding stub and smirked. Honestly, are we still talking about this? Just escort him out. This is ridiculous. David didn't move. He stayed standing in front of his seat, his tone still measured. Your system had a glitch. I paid. I boarded early. I have a confirmed seat. But you're choosing to let money speak louder than facts. Victoria scoffed, turning to Elena. Do I need to add another 1,000 to help move this along? She dangled a fresh $100 bill between two manicured fingers. Marcus Vance stood up 3 rows back. That's enough. You're literally bribing airline staff. In front of everyone. You think we don't see what's happening? Elena turned to him sharply. Sir, sit down or I'll have you removed as well. Chloe's voice rang out steady. You're threatening passengers for objecting to corruption. Let the camera keep rolling. Maya stepped closer to David's side. Eyes focused, voice soft. It's all being logged. Sir, audio's crisp. Passenger testimonies too. Elena's face twisted with stress. You don't get to threaten me with a phone. I'm enforcing protocol, David responded. You're enforcing bias, and it's showing, Liam mumbled. He's probably just some compensation seeker. Look at him, Victoria added. Exactly? Look at how he's dressed. This is first class, not some discount train station. David's eyes flicked to Victoria with the quietest flash of disdain. You think clothes define value? I think you've bought too many mirrors and not enough wisdom. Victoria's lip curled, spoken, like someone who shops in bulk. The insult lingered, sour and unwelcome. Marcus raised his voice. He showed his boarding pass. I saw him walk on early. What else do you need? Chloe added. And Miss Sterling offered money. We all saw it. I'm filming. Every second, Elena's eyes darted from face to face. You're disrupting the peace of this flight, David said firmly. You disrupted it the moment you chose cash over confirmation. Liam tapped again at the glitching manifest screen. Still not showing clearance, Maya whispered, I submitted the override. From HQ, they'll get the update in 60 seconds. David said to Liam. When it arrives, I want to hear your apology loud enough for the passengers to hear. Victoria barked a laugh. You really think any of us care what you hear? Elena pressed on, stepping even closer. Sir, for the last time, either move or security will remove you. Miss Sterling is seated. David nodded slowly. That's your final word? Yes. Good, David said. Let it go on record that you denied a confirmed passenger their seat due to a tire and cash influence. Liam's face twitched. His fingers trembled slightly over the screen. Maybe we made a mistake. Victoria interrupted sharply. Don't start second-guessing. We're already in motion. Elena snapped. Liam, focus. He's not cleared. That's what the screen says. Chloe took one step down the aisle. Mr. Cole, she said softly, how much did Miss Sterling give you? The question landed like thunder. Victoria froze. Elena turned. Liam blanched. What? Chloe raised her phone. We saw the exchange, the envelope, the cash. How much did she give you? Liam looked at the tablet, then at Elena, then back at David. 5,000. He mumbled. The air left the cabin like someone had punched a hole through it. Marcus whispered, Say that again. Liam's voice cracked. 5,000. She offered it, said she couldn't miss her meeting. Said the guy in 1A wouldn't care. Victoria hissed. You idiot. Elena gasped. You weren't supposed to say anything. Chloe zoomed in on Liam's face. Thank you, Mr. Cole. David looked at him, unblinking. And you took it. Liam's voice dropped to a whisper. Elena said it happens sometimes, quietly. For regulars, we thought you were. No one. Elena turned to him, furious. You liar. Don't. Liam snapped back, face burning. You said we were due for a good report, that Victoria was close to senior execs. You said she'd tip if we made room, and you were dumb enough to admit it on a plane full of phones. Victoria snapped, panic cutting through her polished tone. Maya's voice came through like a verdict. Audios recorded. Footages saved. Admission logged. David looked straight at Elena. You sold a seat that wasn't yours to sell. You misused your authority. You let a passenger buy her way past process and dignity. Elena took a shaky breath. I was following the situation. No, David said. You were following her cash. The silence after that was brutal. Victoria's bravado cracked into disbelief. Elena looked like she wanted to shrink into the floor. Liam lowered the tablet like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Maya stepped forward. HQ manifest is updated. Confirmed. David Thorne? Seat 1A. Fully cleared. David didn't smile. He didn't need to. You wanted to remove me, he said quietly, from a seat I paid for, on an airline I built, because I didn't look expensive enough to matter, and you were willing to do it in public, on camera, backed by a bribe. Victoria tried to speak, but no words came. Just a trembling jaw and a red flush creeping up her neck. Liam opened his mouth, then closed it. Elena looked to the cockpit. Captain, but Ethan Shaw didn't respond, not yet. The cabin had turned into a courtroom, and the jury was already deliberating. Chloe lowered her phone. Mr. Thorne, I hope you understand. This footage could change everything. It already has, David said, and he sat down in 1A like he had never been challenged, not as a power move, but as a reminder that every inch of that seat had already been earned, not by status, not by bribery, but by integrity. And the courage to stand when silence was easier. Elena's voice broke the silence like a blade through cloth, harsh, loud, and panicked. Show me your ID right now, if you're going to keep claiming you belong in that seat. Prove it. David Thorne didn't flinch. He sat still in 1A, his fingers resting calmly on the armrest, while Maya stood beside him without blinking. Elena's tone sharpened, desperate to claw back authority. We're not playing games anymore. Either verify your identity or leave the seat. Liam, still clutching the tablet, tried to back her up with a weak nod. It's protocol. Victoria folded her arms, glaring at David like she had just stepped off a royal balcony. He's pretending, probably printed that boarding pass himself. Marcus Vance spoke from the aisle, arms crossed. He already showed the pass, and he boarded before anyone else. Y'all are just hoping no one's watching closely. Chloe Park didn't stop filming. If anything, she zoomed in. They're hoping the cameras will turn off. Not happening. Elena stepped forward again, her shoes clicking sharply on the cabin floor. ID, now. David looked up at her, calm as a quiet storm. Did you ask Victoria for hers? She's verified. No, he said, cutting her off. She offered you cash. You accepted. Now you demand documents from the man whose name was printed on the ticket before. The system crashed. Elena's mouth opened, but no words came. Liam looked down at the floor, jaw clenched from the overhead speaker. Captain Ethan Shaw's voice returned, more irritated than before. This disruption needs to end. Final warning to the gentleman in 1A. Comply with crew instructions or be removed. David leaned back slightly. Still hiding in the cockpit, Captain Shaw. The cabin stirred. A woman in to be gasped. Marcus muttered, "That's not how a captain's supposed to act." Victoria stood up now, pointing toward David. You're holding this plane hostage because you want attention. If you were really elite, you wouldn't dress like airport furniture. Chloe snapped her camera toward her. That's your idea of class. David looked at Victoria and said, with no malice but full weight, "You've mistaken luxury for decency and mistaken your voice for authority." Victoria snorted. "This is absurd." Then louder, "Security." Elena turned to Liam. "Call for backup." He's non-compliant. Liam didn't move. He stared at David like he was realizing, too late, that something was off. That maybe the man in the t-shirt had more power in his silence than Victoria had in all her cash. David glanced at Maya. "Let's continue logging this." She nodded, already noting time stamps. "We're capturing every word." Marcus moved up a row. "You're embarrassing yourselves now. This isn't protocol. This is discrimination." Victoria snapped, "Stay out of it. This doesn't concern you." Marcus said, "It concerns every black man who's ever been told he's a casual to be taken seriously. It concerns all of us." Elena's eyes darted between them, her confidence thinning. "You're twisting everything," David said. "Then let's untwist it. Open the manifest, verify the payment logs, and check the update from HQ." Liam finally muttered. "HQ update came through. It confirms 1A was paid and cleared for Thorn." Victoria froze. "That's impossible," Elena whispered. "That system was. It glitched." "I saw it," David asked. "And what did you see when you chose to ignore protocol and accept her money?" Silence. Thick, heavy. Victoria's fingers dug into her purse. Chloe's phone never wavered. Maya folded her arms, and then it broke. Elena's voice cracked. "We were told to accommodate priority contributors." She offered the cash. "I figured." "Figured what?" David asked. "That I wouldn't speak up. That you were bluffing," she shouted. "That you were just another guy trying to score a free seat looking like that." There it was. Raw, loud, ugly. The words echoed. The passengers heard it. And now no one could unhear it. Marcus whispered, "There, it is," Chloe said. "Keep rolling, we just crossed the line." Elena looked around, suddenly aware of how many eyes were on her. He didn't look the part. Okay. I thought he was bluffing. I thought we could solve it quietly and move on. David stood slowly. "Solve what?" "The inconvenience of a black man in first class. The discomfort of me sitting where you didn't expect me, too." "It's not like that," she stammered. "Then what's it like?" he asked. "Explain to this cabin how bribery and appearance became your guiding tools for justice. Victoria stepped forward, waving a receipt from her phone. I made a donation to the airline. That should be respected. David turned to her. A bribe is not a donation, and your presence is not a privilege. It's a courtesy, one you just lost. Elena, nearly trembling, reached out. Look, we've had overbookings, mistakes happen. We're stressed. I'm sorry. Too late for that, David said. Because this wasn't a mistake, it was a choice. Then he looked directly at Liam. And you? Liam's mouth moved. But no sound came. Chloe lowered her phone just enough to whisper, "You should say it before the recording speaks louder than your silence ever could." Liam exhaled slowly. She asked me to block the update, said she'd fix it after takeoff. I didn't know who he was. I was tired. You were compromised, David said. And you let your fatigue become bias. Maya checked her phone. Manifest correction confirmed. Timestamp matched to 9:59 a.m. Delay in sync caused by internal override from flight crew access panel. Elena paled. What? Maya turned the screen toward her. You blocked his boarding from within the system, using internal clearance tools reserved for captains and senior flight staff, Victoria said quietly. I didn't tell her to do that. Elena looked frozen. I thought it wouldn't matter. David spoke with quiet finality. It matters now. Chloe lifted her phone once more. Statement complete. David nodded. For now, he turned to Elena. You've misassigned my seat, accepted a bribe, lied about protocol, and humiliated me in front of paying passengers. Then, louder. Elena raised. Liam Cole, Captain Ethan Shaw, you're all done. Liam flinched. Elena stammered. You can't fire me. David didn't raise his voice. I just did. Marcus whispered. Wait. What? Chloe lowered her phone. Did he just? Victoria gasped. Who the hell are you? David looked around the cabin, calm again. You'll find out in a moment. But first, let's correct the record. Then he sat back in 1A and folded his hands in his lap as if the storm had already passed. But for the crew, it was just beginning. Elena reached for the intercom with a trembling hand, her voice shaking, but loud enough to command attention as she snapped. Security to gate for 7B. We have a non-compliant passenger refusing relocation from first class. The cabin gasped. Victoria turned in her seat, lips parted, eyes wide as she realized things were spinning out of control. Wait, what are you doing? She hissed. I didn't ask for all that, but Elena was committed now, voice climbing. Passenger is interfering with boarding, delaying departure, refusing valid crew instruction. David didn't even look at her. He turned to Maya and said calmly, Time. Maya, phone in hand, replied 10:08 a.m., 7 minutes since her first demand. All recorded. HQ alert already sent. David gave a slight nod. Good. Keep filming. Across the aisle, Chloe stood fully upright now, phone high, recording everything, her voice firm. This is being documented for public interest, bribery, seat reassignment, and internal overrides. This isn't just a mistake. This is fraud? Liam blurted out. She said it was protocol. She told me to bypass the update. Elena turned to him, eyes wide with betrayal. You're seriously throwing me under the bus right now. You put me in this, he snapped. You said they always bend for Victoria. You said it's handled behind the scenes. David raised a hand to calm the now murmuring passengers, then stood slowly from 1A, posture upright, gaze direct. Let's settle this right now, he said clearly. Check the original manifest, confirm the system crash, pull the override log. It'll show exactly when and how my seat was reassigned, all within your own flight control panel. Elena shook her head. That's not possible. That's only accessible to. She stopped. Everyone felt the weight of the unspoken truth. Only flight leads and captains could trigger that override. Chloe whispered. She just implicated the cockpit. Marcus, voice heavy with disbelief, asked, You're telling me the captain knew? He was in on this? Victoria snapped. This is getting blown out of proportion. I was just trying to get home comfortably. Aelina hissed. This isn't about you anymore. Liam's voice cracked. We've been doing this for months. Whenever someone from the priority tier comes through and the cabin's tight, he stopped himself, but it was too late. Chloe lowered her phone slightly, stunned. Wait, you've done this before. Marcus moved forward. How many people have you bumped out of first class based on their clothes? Aelina looked at them both and, in a burst of desperation, said the one thing she never should have said out loud. We had a verbal protocol, she admitted, breath shallow. Unwritten, but real. If a high-value white client tipped, and if the other passenger didn't look like they belonged, we were encouraged to shift the seat quietly. For the sake of cabin harmony, gasps broke out around the first-class cabin. Victoria stood up fully now. What the hell are you saying? Aelina ignored her. She looked right at David, trembling. You don't understand. I've been written up twice. I had to meet quotas. They told us to keep premium clients happy. I thought if she was willing to pay. David cut in. Voice like steel wrapped in calm. You thought no one would challenge you, that no one recording, no one watching would be powerful enough to hold you accountable. Maya stepped forward and tapped her earpiece. Sir, Evelyn Stone is on standby. She's listening in now. David nodded. Then let's make it official. All statements recorded. Aelina Reyes has just confessed to enforcing a discriminatory seat-shifting protocol for paying passengers based on visual identity and personal bias. Aelina backed up one step, then to her voice shrank. It wasn't just me. Who else? Maya asked. Name them. Aelina hesitated. Sometimes Captain Shaw gave the order, he said. He said it protected the brand. Victoria interrupted, pointing furiously. You are not dragging me into this mess. I just gave a thank you tip. That's all. If anyone's to blame, it's whoever decided to make that a ticket to first class. Chloe said plainly. You bribed a crew member. That's not tipping. And this is on video. Victoria's mouth opened, then closed, unable to spin. Marcus moved closer to David. Do you want us to back you up if security shows up? David shook his head. No. I want you to bear witness. That's more powerful than a pushback. The intercom crackled again. Captain Shaw returned, voice now lower, uneasy. Cabin crew, please stabilize the situation. De-escalation is advised. Repeat. De-escalation is advised. David smirked slightly. He knows he's cornered. Aelina turned toward the cockpit, rage now mixing with panic. Ethan, say something. You authorized this. Don't leave me out here. But there was only silence. Victoria muttered, This is insane. They're all acting like they've never accepted a gift in their life. Chloe looked at her coldly. This isn't about gifts. It's about abuse of power. Aelina broke down further. I didn't invent the system, I was surviving it. David looked directly at her. Then today, the system ends. Maya tapped her phone. Sir, HR confirms. The verbal protocol was never authorized. If confirmed, it's grounds for immediate termination. David gave a nod. Call it in. And then, turning back to the stunned cabin, he said, Everything you just witnessed, every bribe, every bias, every lie has been part of a pattern, and that pattern ends today with truth. Murmurs rose. Some passengers clapped softly, others simply sat in stunned silence, and at the back of the aisle, two airport security officers arrived, but paused when Chloe pointed her phone toward them and said, If you touch him, you become part of this cover-up. They didn't move. They just looked toward the man in 1A and waited for his lead. David rose from seat 1A slowly, removing his glasses and reaching up with both hands to peel off the thick beard that had hidden half his face until now. Gasps rippled through the cabin as his full identity came into view. No longer a man in a plain white t-shirt, but the unmistakable face of David Thorne, billionaire CEO and founder of Aerovani Airlines, standing not just as a passenger, but As the very owner of the plane, the company, and the future of everyone watching. Elena staggered back like she'd been struck, her voice catching in her throat. Liam's eyes widened in disbelief, and Victoria's face turned a ghostly shade of white. Her jaw slacked. You, Elena stammered. This has to be some kind of trick. No trick, David said, voice calm and steady. I'm David Thorne, chairman of Aero Van-T. Every seat on this aircraft belongs to my name, and so does every decision about who stays in it or who doesn't. The silence in the cabin thickened as the reality sank in. Maya stepped forward, holding up her tablet. HR has confirmed Mr. Thorne's authority to execute terminations on the spot. Full documentation in progress, all audio and video logged. Chloe, still filming, whispered. This is history. Marcus muttered, this is justice. David turned slowly to Elena. You, Ms. Reyes, demanded a man yield his paid seat based on a visual judgment and a cash offer. You refused a verified pass, ignored internal updates, and called for security on the very person who signs your paycheck. Elena shook her head in disbelief. I didn't know. I didn't realize it was you. That's the point, David said. You thought I didn't matter because of what I wore, because I didn't look like wealth. You never asked who I was. You just assumed I couldn't possibly be the one in charge. Victoria stepped forward with a forced laugh. Okay. So you're important. That doesn't change what happened. I offered a donation to help the airline. It was never meant to replace anyone. David turned to her. You didn't donate. You bribed, and you used your appearance and your arrogance to pressure the staff into breaking the system. You exploited desperation and status, and now you're banned from ever flying Aerovani again. Effective immediately, Victoria's mouth fell open. Vant, you can't be serious. Security will escort you off this aircraft, David said. We don't allow money to replace morals at 4,000 feet. Elena stepped forward in a panic. Please, Mr. Thorne, this job is everything to me. I didn't mean, you meant every word you said. David cut her off, and every choice you made led to this moment. You're terminated. Effective now. Liam tried to speak. Sir, I was just following Elena's lead. Mr. Cole, David said without turning. You knowingly misread a manifest, accepted an update, and suppressed it. You've been complicit in multiple incidents. I didn't know who you were. And again, that's the point, Maya added. Documentation of override suppression is being forwarded to Evelyn Stone now. HR confirms breach of duty. David faced the front of the cabin. Let me be very clear. This wasn't one bad decision. This was a system built on bribes, appearances, and cowardice. And every one of you played your part, until now. Elena slumped into the jump seat, hands trembling. Victoria was escorted out, refusing to meet anyone's eyes. Liam sat down slowly, silent, already knowing. Then came the voice from the overhead speaker. Captain Shaw, Mr. Thorne, I'd like to speak. In private if I may. David turned toward the cockpit but didn't move. Say it here, Captain, in front of the people you failed to protect. There was a pause. Then the captain's voice returned, weaker now. I authorized some overrides, quietly, for certain passengers. I thought I was protecting the brand image. Chloe shouted toward the ceiling. You protected prejudice, not a brand. David asked plainly. Did you log the complaints? Another pause. Then, I received multiple reports about bribery attempts. I deleted some. I didn't want another scandal. There it was, the huge twist. Not just silence or inaction, but an active cover-up. Maya's voice rang out from beside David. We have the records. Sir. HR shows 5 bribery complaints filed in the last 4 months. None were escalated. 3 came from black passengers. 1 flagged Elena by name, David said. And where are those logs now? He raced from crew systems, but backed up in HR's shadow archive. Evelyn just confirmed access. David's voice was no longer soft. Captain Ethan Shaw, you are relieved of duty. Effective. Immediately, this aircraft will not take off until a replacement is dispatched. Audible gasps rang out across the cabin. Liam buried his face in his hands. Elena was already crying, and Victoria, now escorted out, screamed from the terminal door, "You'll regret this." "I doubt it," David said. Then to the passengers, "I apologize for what you've witnessed, but not for what I've done. This is accountability, and it's overdue." Chloe lowered her phone slowly, tears in her eyes. Marcus clapped, quietly at first, then louder. Soon, others joined him. A round of applause rose, not loud, not celebratory, but full of meaning. David returned to seat 1A, exhaling for the first time in what felt like years. Maya leaned in and whispered, "That was everything we needed, sir," he replied. "Now we start." Over. David stood and walked slowly down the aisle toward the galley, every eye in the first-class cabin following him in near silence. Maya walked just behind, holding the open tablet, her voice low but firm as she connected the line. "Evelyn, we're live. Confirm HR authority." A calm voice came through the earpiece. "Confirmed. Mr. Thorne may execute immediate terminations under operational breach protocols. We've logged the full incident." David entered the narrow galley, cool air brushing across his skin as the door closed behind them. He took a breath, then gave the names one by one. Elena Reyes, Liam Cole, Ethan Shaw, and he glanced down at Maya's notes. Evan Ross, the junior attendant who processed the override command from the crew panel. Maya spoke clearly into the mic. "All for submitted for termination, effective immediately. Supporting documentation, including video, audio, and witness statements, uploaded and signed." David didn't linger. He turned and walked back into the cabin, his voice steady as he stopped at the aisle midpoint and addressed the passengers. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. The 4 staff members responsible for the misconduct you witnessed have been officially relieved of duty. Your safety and dignity will never be traded for convenience or cash under my leadership again." A light murmur passed through the rows. Nods. Quiet exhalations of relief. Chloe lowered her phone. "He actually did it." Marcus leaned forward. "Not just words, action," David continued. "Effective today, we're launching a company-wide reform, the Vandy Equity Initiative. Every crew member, ground or air, will be retrained under new equity-centered protocols with real-world bias testing, appearance, income, race. None of these will influence treatment aboard Air Avani ever again." He turned slightly, addressing both passengers and cameras. "I founded this airline to connect people, not to divide them. We failed today, and now we begin again," Maya added, voice strong. "All past internal complaints previously unaddressed will be reviewed, and passengers mistreated under appearance-based bias will be contacted directly for redress." That was when Elena stood, her face pale, but her voice suddenly hardening. "You think this ends with me," she said. "You think I was the only one doing this?" David looked at her, eyes narrowing. "Speak." Elena's hands shook slightly, but her voice held. "There's a Slack group. Internal. Crew only. It's not on company servers. It's private. They call it the Priority Quiet Board. It's where senior flight staff share tips on who can buy peace in the cabin. How much is worth what. How to bump someone who doesn't fit the vibe. It started as jokes, then it became real, coordinated, executed." Chloe's hand shot up with her phone again, capturing every word. Marcus muttered, "So this went way deeper." David stepped closer, his voice even. "Do you have access?" Elena nodded. "I was in it. Liam too. Ethan moderated some of it. Victoria was mentioned dozens of times. She wasn't the only one tipping to displace people. They called it adjusted elegance." Maya's fingers moved fast over the tablet. "I'm alerting Evelyn. We'll need forensic review of all unofficial crew communication channels." Elena's voice cracked. "Now, I didn't want to keep doing it, but Ethan said if I didn't play along, I'd be written up again. I was already on probation. David didn't blink. You had choices, and you chose wrong. I know, Elena whispered. But if I go down, they all should, every one of them. Maya looked up. 7 override anomalies in the last 6 months, logged from Ethan's flights. Most involved seat reassignments from passengers of color. David looked around the cabin once more. Slower now. Then this initiative won't just retrain, it'll rebuild. He turned back to Elena. Your confession will be logged, and your access ends the moment we touch the tarmac. Elena didn't argue. She just sank back into the jump seat, eyes hollow. David faced the passengers again. This is how we heal what's been broken, not quietly, not politely, but fully, openly, and without hesitation. And for the first time that morning, a ripple of applause moved through the cabin, not just for justice, but for the truth finally being louder than the silence. By the time Flight AV204 was cleared to depart with a replacement crew and a newly restored manifest, Elena, Liam, Ethan, and Evan had been formally dismissed. Their badges revoked and access terminated in real time. Victoria was long gone. Her exit captured in full by Chloe's camera as she screamed about lawsuits and reputations, none of which could shield her from the truth now living in every frame of that video. As the cabin settled, the energy shifted from tension to reflection. Maya sat beside David in seat 1A, reading through messages pouring in from Evelyn and the Aravani board, all confirming full support for the Vandy Equity Initiative. Implementation begins tomorrow, Maya whispered. Every flight, every city, mandatory training across the board. David nodded slowly, glancing around the cabin where passengers had begun speaking quietly to each other, sharing their own experiences of being profiled, ignored, underestimated. Chloe approached from across the aisle, extending her phone. I've been covering inequality for 12 years. I've never seen a CEO take action like this. You didn't just fire staff. You rewrote the culture in front of the world. David took a long breath. The world needed to see that change is not just possible, it's required. Marcus leaned in from 3A, voice warm but steady. You reminded people like me that dignity doesn't have to beg to be recognized. You made sure we saw ourselves in first class. David gave him a nod of quiet appreciation. That's what equity means, not appearance, not power, just humanity. Respected. Maya tapped the tablet again. Chloe will receive a lifetime Aravani pass, complimentary. Signed off already. And Marcus too. Business premium status for standing up when it mattered. Chloe blinked, surprised. I didn't do it for perks. You did it because it was right, David said. Which is exactly who we want flying with us. And just as the new flight attendants began checking in with passengers, a quiet voice called out from row 4D. An older man, dressed in standard crew uniform, but seated as a passenger, stood and cleared his throat. Mr. Thorne, my name is Robert Kane. I flew with Aravani for 11 years. I retired last spring. David turned toward him, recognizing the name from the old leadership roster. Mr. Kane, he said. You were head of in-flight operations during our merger phase. The man nodded, looking tired but resolute. Yes, sir, and I'm here today because I owe you and every person on this plane an apology. I knew about the Priority Quiet Board, not by name, but by practice. I heard whispers. I saw reassigned manifests, and I said nothing. I didn't speak up. I should have. The cabin went still again, the kind of silence that honors truth when it finally emerges. Robert's voice shook. Elena wasn't the first. Neither was Ethan. We failed to protect passengers who didn't dress rich, look white, or fit some shallow expectation of what success should be. I was complicit by silence. I own that. David stood again. Thank you for telling the truth. That's the only way we move forward. Robert nodded. I believe in what you're doing. If you'll have me, I'd like to come back, not as crew, but to help train the next generation, to tell them what I failed to say when I had the chance. Maya looked at David. Then, back at Robert, the Vandy Equity Initiative will need a voice like yours. We'll be in touch. Robert returned to his seat, his face lighter. Chloe turned off her phone and simply said, "That was healing." And David, now seated once more, looked out the window toward the morning light breaking across the tarmac. "We don't build legacy in silence," he said quietly. "We build it in the wreckage of what we refuse to tolerate again." In the weeks that followed, Aravani underwent a transformation. Bias complaint response times dropped from weeks to hours. Bribery protocols were dismantled entirely. The Vandy Equity Initiative became a model for other airlines. Studied in industry journals and cited in equity training programs worldwide. Crew members who'd once dismissed passengers for wearing hoodies now held doors open and learned names. Every boarding pass scan was double-checked, not for status, but for respect. And David Thorne's words, spoken on that aircraft during a 15-minute delay, were printed on plaques placed inside every Aravani jet. Equity doesn't fly standby. It deserves a seat every time. If this story moved you, if it made you think differently about who we dismiss and why, share it. Comment below with where you're watching from, because accountability doesn't need permission, it needs voices. Yours.